Back here on Zolak and Bertrand, and joining us now in the Super Service Today guest chair is NBC Sports Boston's Phil Perry. Phil, how we doing?
What's up, boys?
How we doing, Phil?
How we feeling up here?
That was a hell of a practice, huh?
No, there's nothing to take away from that. Other than, Matt Hollins' return doesn't get you going, Zo?
It does. Well, it makes you start talking receivers, and I think that's the one thing you can look at. You can say, okay, Diggs is number 1, Pop Douglas is number 2. I go Kyle Williams number 3. I go Kayshon Boutte number 4, or maybe you can put him at 3, then put Kyle Williams at 4. Then you go Bourne, then you go Mac Hollins, and then everybody else at the end.
I think that's a totally reasonable list on your part. I would have Boutte just based on how he's been used ahead of Williams. So to me, the top 3 guys that they've been using out here at camp have been Diggs, Douglas, and Boutte.
Yeah,
very consistently.
Well, Boutte's played his way into this.
It feels like they want him to succeed. I mean, he's consistently done a good job. He's not making wow you kinds of plays on a regular basis out here, but I think he's doing everything right, the little things. I think he's matured as a player, and so, and my understanding is he's matured as a person. It's hard to believe that, guys, he's actually a little bit younger than both Javon Baker and Jaylen Polk, even though he's got a full extra year in the league than those guys. And so I think they think there's more upside there with him than there is with somebody like Kendrick Bourne, who, to me, if you didn't know his name was Kendrick Bourne based on what he's done out here at camp, so I don't think anybody would have him on a 53-man roster projection right now.
So you think he has nothing left?
I don't know if it's that. He's not being used.
Yeah.
When's the last time we saw Drake Maye throw Kendrick Bourne a pass?
It's a good question.
He's not out there.
Plus, with the way Bourne talked about having McDaniels back, like that's my guy.
You would think that relationship earns him a spot and earns him a gig. I just don't know if it will. To me, he feels like their 6th best receiver right now, or their 6th receiver on the depth chart if I was ordering them. And I don't know how many 6th receivers in the NFL do nothing on special teams, which is Kendrick Bourne. And so, to me, I don't know if he's a lock to make this roster by any stretch of the imagination. And if they feel like they need to keep an extra body on the edge or on the offensive line for one reason or another, somebody's kind of banged up but isn't going to miss a ton of time, so you need somebody extra, like, he might be the guy to go, which is a little sad. I like Kendrick Bourne. I like the cut of his jib. I like what he's about. But they've got a lot of guys whose skill sets, to me, kind of overlap. They're just sort of intermediate. They're not deep guys. They're not, small, shifty, quick guys. I think he and Boutte have very similar skill sets, but one guy is younger, and I think they think probably has more upside.
What did you make of Jaylen Polk's comments yesterday, I should say, in terms of turning the page on last year and not really addressing it?
It was a little odd to me. I wouldn't blame the guy if he just feels like he doesn't want to give the media the time of day, and so anytime he thinks he's getting a leading question, he's just not going to give you the answer that he thinks you think he should be giving, right? Because it felt like he was giving softballs yesterday. Hey, was it hard to miss time? No, it wasn't really that hard. All right, okay. Do you think about last year? Disappointing. You use that as motivation. No, I didn't even think about last year. All right, as I said last night to Curran on Early Edition, we all know the first step in solving any problem is to first refuse to acknowledge that it exists.
Yeah, don't address it.
Yeah, just forget that it ever happened.
Close your eyes. Yep, exactly.
He's kind of the same guy from last year. You're like, you saw the play. I was in the end zone. Like, no, the rule states that you were out of the end zone, and he still went with that a week after. Like, you're not gonna thump him. But like, he's gonna be his own guy, and hey, good luck to him.
Yeah, I've sort of got this 53-man roster thing in the receiver position on my mind because I'm doing one right now for our website. He's not going to be on the roster for me.
How many do you think
I just don't know how you could put him on. I think they could keep 6, and right now I would have Bourne on there, but again, I think if we were really sort of removing his history and Josh McDaniels' history from the equation, you probably just say they have 5 guys. I thought one thing that was interesting about practice today, and again, it's not competitive at all, but Mac Hollins in his first chance to actually participate in something on the field, he's on the field on the right-hand side with Drake Maye and Stephon Diggs and Kayshon Boutte and Pop Douglas, and on the left-hand side is Kyle Williams and Kendrick Bourne and Efton Chisholm. Like all of these, secondary, tertiary types of receivers, and Mac Hollins is out there getting reps with, alongside Steph Diggs and Pop Douglas. I think he's going to play a significant amount offensively. He's a big body. I think they like that he can block for a team that I think is going to run the ball quite a bit. And so, to me, he's gonna be taking snaps away from people. There's only, so many snaps to be had at that position.
So we all know that this team is going to go as far as Drake Maye's development takes them and as good as Drake Maye becomes or whatever. And we've been talking, I don't get to talk to Phil that often. I want to know, who would you take right now for this team? Would you take Drake Maye or would you take Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts right now for this team?
Right now, today, for this season, I would take Jalen Hurts. But I don't think it's a question who you'd rather have long term. I just think we get a little caught up sometimes. And I know, this show and others, Zoe, I heard you talking about it today. I was listening on my way in, and you're talking about how Drake Maye can't go 1-9 again. And I get it, obviously. Nobody's looking to lose that many games.
Right.
Was he the reason they went 1-9?
No.
Okay.
No.
So let's try to just remove the wins and losses thing just for a second. It doesn't have to be forever and always.
I've defended
But
the
just for
1-9.
a second, remove wins and losses from the quarterback position when you have a discussion like this, because situation matters so freaking much at that position. And there's so many examples of it, guys. Like, did Sam Darnold just start to become a pretty good quarterback last year? Or was he surrounded by crap in New York and surrounded by crap in Carolina, and he got put into one of, if not the best quarterback situation in the league, and he turned out to be a halfway decent, not a great quarterback, but a pretty good starting caliber quarterback, ends up getting a big contract. Was Tom Brady, a one-and-done playoff type of quarterback in 2019? Was that reflective of his performance? Or was he still one of the best players in football, and did he show it the very next year in 2020 when he was surrounded by one of the best supporting casts in football? Like, these guys are buoyed by or sunk by their situations all the time. Baker Mayfield was good in Cleveland, then he sucked in Cleveland, then he sucked in Carolina, and now he's good again in Tampa Bay. Is that just him riding the roller coaster? It's probably part of it. Or was he just surrounded by vastly different casts that have improved his stock or devalued his stock in our eyes? So I just think that position, and so the reason why it's pertinent to this conversation is you have a guy who's arguably last year in the worst quarterback situation in the league in Drake Maye, and the guy who's in the best, and Jalen Hurts. So Jalen Hurts gets credit for having the best offensive line in football and the best receivers in football, and it's helped him become a pretty damn good quarterback. I think for this roster, like, he could help you here in New England because of what he does with his legs. And I just think he's shown enough that right here today, I'd be willing to take him over Drake Maye, but next year I might feel very differently about that.
So there's a lot there, and I just want to follow up real quick with this, Zoe and Phil. If the Patriots were to go 1-9 this year, don't you think this year it would be a lot more Drake Maye's fault based on what they have?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, because the situation's improved, right? The offensive line's still not great, but it's better. The receivers still aren't great. I'd say they're still below average, but it's better.
Yeah.
And so, it's not. You can't make any sort of excuse for that kind of record if that were to happen again.
Right.
No, I like his command and I like his tone this year. It's night and day from a year ago. Where he's not going to tell you everything. He's not giving you all the answers. So I'm going to tell you where the bodies are buried. But he just feels like he's in control. Like, there's confidence. It's his team. And, hey, they cleared the deck for him. So it's all on him.
Do you make anything of the fact, do you think this is something worthy of note? Is it in any way impressive to you? Or do you say, who cares? It's practice. The fact that he hasn't thrown an interception yet in training camp?
I think that's huge because day one of OTAs, there was 4 picks. And that has gotten cleaned up. So he's advancing. And I know they haven't really pushed it downfield a ton. You haven't seen a lot of team drills where they're really trying to go downfield. He had the one scramble drill where he hit Pop Douglas for the big one on Saturday. He had a nice throw to Kyle Williams here. I think it was yesterday. But Josh has done a good job. I think, hey, we're going to take what's in front of us. Take what's in front of us. We're not going to turn it over. Protect the ball. And I think it's given him some confidence.
This or that. At the end of the season, we say this guy is a foundational piece on the offensive line.
I thought we were going to go
Jared Wilson,
private jet.
Will Campbell.
That's a good question. It's a good question. I right now, and this is in part because I was a believer of Will Campbell's before he was drafted, just based on conversations that I had with people I trust when it comes to offensive line evaluation. I think you're going to have 2. I do. Jared Wilson, to me, has been arguably their most impressive offensive lineman, period, not just as a rookie. I thought what he did in the one-on-ones to me was eye-opening, to say the least. to shut down Christian Barmore twice and Milton Williams once and really shut them down.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes we watch those one-on-ones, and it's like, it's kind of a stalemate. It looked like that one could have gone either way.
Yeah.
He won all 3 reps decidedly. And for somebody who only played 1 year, started 1 year at center at Georgia, to come in, miss the spring here in New England, dealing with something physically, get back out here for training camp, and basically second day of pads as a pro, just stonewall 2, we think, really talented interior defensive linemen. That stands out. So I think he's going to be able to play and play well. It's interesting to me that with Bradbury out yesterday, that they didn't move him to center. They decided to play him at guard. And
that is interesting. They brought Ben Brown in, right?
They brought Ben Brown in. And I thought, that might have been because he had a few fumbled snaps. Wilson did earlier in training camp. And they said, okay, maybe let's just, pump the brakes on the center stuff for now and just get him on the field because we know he can block. And so let's put him at left guard. But that also could be, and I would allow for this too, it also could just be that, we know Bradbury's coming back eventually, and the center spot's going to be his.
Sure.
So let's just play Wilson. Let's practice Wilson at the spot he's ultimately going to end up at.
Yep.
And that could very well be the case. If that is the case, what does that mean for Cole Strange? Are these the last days for Cole Strange here in New England?
Yeah, I thought he wasn't bad in camp, so far. It was okay.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But I'm not expecting, the world out of him. But, let's get him out there and see he can be scrappy and go block people.
And maybe there's a chance, though, he ends up being kind of like the super sub type.
Yeah.
Right, where on game day, you need somebody who can play a little bit of center and play either right or left guard coming off the bench. Ted Karras did before he was starting here. Maybe that ends up being the path for him. But, center is still very new for him. He tried it a little bit last year. I thought some of the snaps were fine the other day when we saw him playing some center with that second unit. I do wonder, you're going to have Ben Brown, Caden Wallace, and Cole Strange all kind of competing for backup interior offensive line spots.
Gotcha.
And I'm not sure who ends up winning out there.
What's your biggest question mark still for this team heading into tomorrow's scrimmage, and then obviously the joints coming up next week with Washington?
Well, I think the biggest question mark is, Will Campbell. It's early, and even if I believe he will ultimately be fine at left tackle, we still, have to see it on a consistent basis. Talking to Morgan Moses after practice here today, he basically acknowledged that it wasn't a good day of practice for Will Campbell yesterday, and he said, listen, I told him in 12 years I'd be lying if I told you I never had a bad day. So, and my guess is, based on what we know about Will Campbell's makeup and his want to and all the intangibles, he's going to be fine. A practice like that one isn't going to, tank him. But let's see. I did find it interesting on the 3 reps where it looks like he pretty clearly lost. So there was the one-on-one rep with Braden Swinson. I don't know if you guys saw that, but Swinson
2 sacks under pressure.
Swiped his hands immediately in the one-on-ones, and Will Campbell was literally blocking air, like a half a second off the snap. And then in the 11-on-11s, Kayvon Chason got inside on him twice. So those are 3 inside moves. Yeah. And I wonder, though, for a guy who appeared to, in college, have issues with the inside move, if that's something they're going to be able to coach up and get out of his game because, again, what was that, the 3rd day of padded practice that was looking like an issue yesterday?
Yeah, because the big thing is you can't slide every damn play to him. You can't give him the extra help every play. You're going to have to leave him on an island sometimes. So
and getting beat inside, and to me, it's easier to give him help on the outside, right?
Yeah,
with a back or a tight end or
chip.
Even Pop Douglas. I saw Pop Douglas take Kayvon Chason off his feet at one point just by chipping him at the line of scrimmage, sort of a condensed formation from Josh McDaniels. And so he got, Will Campbell got some help that way. If you're getting beat inside and the guard is occupied, that's a quicker path to the quarterback. That's a bigger issue to me.
Yeah.
So that to me is still the question. And then sort of secondarily to that, Tim, your depth at that position is nil. Yeah. There's very little there. DeMontre Jacobs hasn't been horrible, but we saw what he was last season when he had to play a lot at right tackle last season. And after that, I don't know who
Darian Lowe hasn't been out there.
The other backup would be. Maybe it would be Lowe whenever he gets out there, and you would just give it to him based on experience alone. But this kid, Marcus Bryant, 7th rounder they took out of Missouri. He was the left tackle to Armand Membu's right tackle last year. He's been very up and down. I don't know if he's worthy of a roster spot. So, it's hard to find guys that can play that position. I get it. It just feels like you're putting yourself in a really, really bad spot if either one of your top tackles ends up getting banged up.
All right, we'll keep an eye on it. Phil, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Phil.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
Appreciate
Thanks
it,
for
man.
having me.